support and their backing of our foundation, the HRYF Foundation. I'd like to thank our Board of Trustees, those who are serving for another year. I really appreciate that. Thank you for the at-large members, the area coordinators, the club representatives, and Christine Westmoreland, who has basically agreed to take Stanley's place as the vice chair, which we thank you very much for doing that.
Happy to.
Thank you.
And also, I've been praying for our Rotary members, especially those small business Rotary members who are having a hard time right now. They're going through different phases of bankruptcy or loss of business. So I really feel for them, especially those in the tourism business. So my prayers go out to all of you and all of you who are suffering because of this coronavirus. Through and enjoy life again normally, if you ever want to have a normal life again. I don't know. So I'm do you know, can I bring up Faith? Are you in charge? I want to see if I can share my screen. Okay. Okay, you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Pretty.
Okay. So I'm going to bring the agenda up. So we're going to call the meeting to order, which we've done. We've run through the acknowledgements. So we're going to start off with the financial report. Hopefully you had a chance to read it. And if you have any comments, let me know. Give aloha, we did a little bit better this year than last year. Or last year, the 2019, we did a lot better than we did last year, 2018. So hopefully 2020 will be a lot better. We'll start getting the information out early, mid-July, so people will be aware of it. Get the information out to the clubs. As you can see, item C is the contribution. We thank the Sullivan Foundation again for their $55,000 contribution.
Thank you very much.
Yes. And as you can see, this year we're doing a lot better than last year with our totals. So thank you all you clubs that are participating through your members. I really appreciate that. We all appreciate that. Okay, so I'll go ahead and let Gerald Shintaku talk about scholarships.
Thank you, Jeff. Looks like the Big Island rules, Hawaii Island rules this year. We've had 2 winners. One from the Rotary Club of Kona and the other one from Volcano. So congratulations, they've been notified. All the scholarship awardees have been notified and we're proceeding. Again, a tough process to select, to come down to the 2 winners, but we made it through and hopefully we'll refine some of the rules for next year and make it, I wouldn't say easier, but at least a little clearer for all of us that are involved with the selection piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerald.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is it possible for the clubs to receive some sort of a short paragraph on each of these 2 students? So we just know what's,
Sure.
what the deciding factor was.
Okay. We can do that.
Thank you. That would be great.
Yeah, I'm all for sharing information. The more information our members get, the more they'll likely to contribute, knowing that their funds are going to a worthwhile cause. So that's a good suggestion. Thank you.
Well, we couldn't believe that ours wouldn't win.
I think we're all like that.
Yeah.
We're going to have the junk and poll next time.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring up Cutler Investments report. We have Matt Patton. Thanks, Matt, for making time to be with us today.
Absolutely happy to be here, Jeff.
Let me get this here. Okay. Oh, that's going too fast. Okay, so just let me know when you want me to.
Jumping the gun. All right. So, hi everybody. Glad to be back. This is an abbreviated version of what I presented to the board a couple of months ago, or I guess about 6 weeks ago. And it will actually speak a little bit to how much things can change in this market in just a short amount of time. So Jeff, go ahead. We're going to talk a little bit about the portfolio and then what you're in. And then we're going to talk about how that's done. And then we'll let you guys move on with your meetings. So go ahead, Jeff. So current portfolio value, almost back up to, as of May 31st, almost back up to $5 million. I'll let kind of looking at this. And I think the interesting part here is, or the part you might find interesting is, we're almost to having given out $4.5 million in scholarships. So that number is coming up, and to me it feels like, and I think Alice, it speaks to your point, although yours was envy for not getting the one of the Sullivan scholarships. It also goes to more information to your clubs to say, look at the value of what this foundation has been able to do for the youth of the state. So I think I will throw a little party, Jeff, when this crosses over 4.5. But let's move on to the next slide.
Okay.
So your current allocation, and hopefully, since we're all looking at the same screen, you guys can see this as well as I can. This is as of April. It has adjusted a little bit as the market has adjusted. There's two. So I'm going to draw your attention to the big red at the bottom, large cap equity. This is the one that Cutler manages specifically manages specifically as opposed to outsourcing to others. And then, and we'll talk about that one in a second. And then the other one, which is the multi-strategy, it is the dark blue 4.65%. And I only highlight that one because after the annual meeting last year, where we talked about the possibility of adding new products in, the finance committee and then the board met to finally approve it. They put in a small position, about 3% into this multi-strategy, which is kind of a hedge of a hedge. And just, to kind of put a finer point on it, we bought 3% in September. It's now 4.65%, which means as everything else has gotten smaller, it has either grown or not shrunk as much. So it was a great addition into the portfolio. Happy that we had it there because it did give us a lot more downside protection. And as you saw on the CDs back on Jeff's original agenda, not a lot of income out there in the world. And this was a product that's giving us some income and providing a little bit of a hedge. So happy to have it in the portfolio. Next slide. So that 30% that we're talking about, this is the one that Cutler runs. No, that was it. Or 40%, 39.75. That's the one that Cutler runs. It is a 5-star fund. It has had terrific performance, especially in the down. So just tooting our horn here for a second, we'll move to the next slide. Spending amount, this has already been set. It was set as the December 31st market value. So it is not impacted this year by the market fluctuations. That is why it is designed to do it. For those of you that might be new to the foundation, the spending policy is 5% of the past 20 quarters. And that's to smooth it out. So if there's a huge run up or a huge crash, you can still count on how much money should be available to go to scholarships each year. And it's to really make a more dependable spending policy for the foundation. Next slide, sir. So portfolio summary. It's not been good. This is over the last year through May 31st, so through a week or two ago. And if you look at your portfolio, even with all the market volatility and everything we've been talking about, and this is net, meaning it includes our fee as well, you are up still over this market time period. So pretty happy about it. I think when we met as a board, the 12-month number showed us down 7%, and everybody looked and gasped a little bit. And here we are 5 or 6 weeks later, and we're now up for the year. So happy that we are able to turn the corner here. I by no means think that the volatility is over. I think there's actually a really good chance that we're going to find ourselves in another correction. But for this point in time, at least, things are looking all right. That 6.12 is the equity product. that we have been running for you. And then the 1.78 is kind of the aggregate of the other mutual funds that are on that pie graph that we saw before. So I think that's probably my last slide. Let's go one more, Jeff, just to make sure. Yes, it is. So that's our presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions, or if Jeff, there's a point you want to make sure I circle back around on, I'm happy to do so.
Any questions from the group?
All right. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. Back on mute.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, we'll be sending you the slides just to be sure after the meeting. So I got a copy of it.
Okay, let me try and get this minimized.
Faith, do you need me to send that to you, or did Jeff already get it to you?
I sent that.
Yeah, he sent it.
Perfect. All right.
Okay. How do I exit full screen? Oh, here we go. Okay, so that's that. So cutting the report. Okay, recognition of per capita awards. We're gonna wait until the end of June. We still have some funds coming in from clubs on Maui and a couple other clubs. We want to give everybody as much opportunity to get their members to contribute for this award. And what we're planning on doing this year is the island area representatives for their areas will go ahead and present, if the winner is in their area, the area coordinator will go ahead and make the presentation to that club. On Oahu, I'll be doing that. So whoever wins, expect a visit from either your area coordinator or if you're on Oahu, from me. And then the annual review, Faith, do you have anything on your annual review there?
No, because of the office being slow, we're still working on it, and we got a extension on it.
Okay.
So we'll be sending that out to the board members when it's
Okay.
done.
Okay, so now we'll go through the recommendations that were made at our last meeting. The first one's going to be the budget. And this is the proposed budget. Can anybody see it? Let me see if I can make that bigger. No. Hopefully you can see that fairly clearly. There's not very much change since last year. So let me know when you want me to move on or if you have any questions. Okay, and then we'll go to the Board of Trustees. Okay, so we have the major changes we have is Christine Westmoreland, which we thank you so much for agreeing to be our Vice Chair and President Emeritus. We also have, where is that? Natasha Claren has graciously accepted the position of Secretary, so she'll be taking over after this meeting. And we're waiting for Alan Kusanoy to make up his mind if he wants to be our VP for Public Relations. Marianne Berry's moving on to better things. Thank you very much. What's so funny about that?
I'm trying to figure out why I'm still in limbo here. I thought I had already agreed that I'd go ahead and do it. So
okay, good. So our new VP for Public Relations is Alan. Thank you, Alan.
okay, you got it.
I'm glad that you're on board, both you and Natasha. I worked with you on RYLA. You guys are really good at what you do, and I thank you for your support. And then our secretary would be Sharon Amano again this year. And of course, past president is Christine Westmoreland. And then the at-large trustees have not changed. And I do thank the district governor trustees for staying on another year. I appreciate your support also. We can't do without you guys. And the finance committee, you can see here, I'm happy that Paul Nakashi is still on there. I know he's retired now and he's looking for work. So maybe this will keep him busy sometimes. He can be our consultant. And then, of course, our HRYF speakers for our clubs is Laura Lindquist, past district governor, and Richard Cunningham of Hilo Bay, which we thank them for their support. And we did send out a new HRYF presentation to all the coordinators as well as the club's speakers, so they have an idea of what HRYF is. And I've been fortunate enough to do a couple on Maui, and of course Joanne has done one. She's doing another on Maui, and the feedback we get is really good. A lot of people didn't really understand HRYF and how it functioned. But now they're having a better idea, and I think this may improve the contributions from each individual member. So are there any questions on the Board of Trustees? And the last one is our schedule. So nothing much has changed except dates and times, dates. But hopefully you had time to review it. One thing I'd like to comment is I moved back the student deadline for applications to 1st of February. That way the clubs don't have to rush around trying to get the interview set up, because these seniors are very hard to nail down for any specific date or time. So this gives the clubs extra week to do that, and of course the area coordinators and the area interviews. So hopefully that'll work out. We'll see how it goes.
Jeff,
Yes.
pre-pets on Oahu,
Yes.
that's February 20th,
Okay.
2021.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Sharon. Marianne. Any other comments or changes or recommendations?
One more for the district conference.
Well, that's in Hilo, yeah?
Yeah, and that's May 14th to the 16th
Okay.
in Hilo.
Okay. You said June, yeah?
No,
May.
May.
Jeff, you should change that February 13th up in the whole long list of dates, since you know that it's February 20th now.
Was this now?
See, up you wrote February 20th,
Okay.
but then to change it in the list of the dates over on the left.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I can learn new things.
Thank you.
For that. Okay. Okay, any other changes?
Oh, Jeff,
Yes.
not a change, but I do have a question. Are we still going to have the virtual celebration for this year's winners?
Yes. We're planning July 18th. We're going to go ahead and get the information out to the students as well as the clubs. And we're going to invite the parents to participate in the Zoom. Also, I'll be working with the district secretary to reserve the Zoom for that day. So we're going to plan on doing that, and we may have the two top scholars give a little talk, and then we'll ask any others if they feel like, the $5,000 ones, if they feel like making a comment or two. But we can't have everybody, but we'll see how that works. But I do have the program ready to go.
And will it be just one for all of the islands?
Yes. Yeah, because since it's Zoom, we can do that.
Yeah.
And I believe the Zoom max is 300 participants.
So Jeff, on July 24th, the scholarship luncheon is off, right?
Yeah. Well, that's for 2021, so that's next year, yeah.
Oh, got it. Okay, got it.
Yeah, yeah. I know it's confusing.
So the one for this year is definitely off.
Yeah, it's gonna be a Zoom. Any other questions with our schedule? Okay. Now, get that. So this is the recommended check centers for 2020, 2021. Okay, and my goals are to continue the program as it's going, to try to make process improvements, which you'll see us go over under new business. But one of my major goals is to see if we can increase individual membership contribution. A couple of clubs have come up with unique ways of getting members to contribute. Maui Behind the Sunset funded $40 per member or $20 per member to match their funds. So if a member contributes $20, the club contributes $20 to make their $40 membership dues. Upcountry Maui, I don't know what they did, but they have about $880 in contributions from their members. So that was a good news for us. So I think the more we get the information out there, the more we can contribute. Any questions about that? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go on to new business with process improvement report, and we can have a quick discussion, and we'll see if we can come up with more. Because what we'd like to do is get input from more input from our other members. And Gerald, do you want to do that?
Sure. Did we skip over item D? Did we need to do anything on D? Or did we, I'm sorry, maybe I missed that. We don't need any kind of, that's just the informational piece, right? So we don't need to.
Which one is it?
Item D, A, B, C, D, on the recommendations.
On the
Recommendations, yeah. Did we cover that? I'm sorry, I might have missed that.
I'm sorry, which one is that? The recommendation?
D, yeah. You don't need to take that.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Questions on that? Okay.
Okay, so basically, Jeff, I'll just start off. You know, we surveyed folks that were involved with the scholarship process this year. Got a lot of input. Thank you very much for those that contributed. You know, some is just updating some of the information. Some of it is just, you know, trying to improve the flow, like Jeff mentioned. So we put together, there should be an attachment to the email that calls out this meeting today. If you want to start take a look at it, we kind of categorized it in it's like 4 different buckets. And if you want to start, we can take a look at it. I think the big one is overall, you know, it's been a discussion over the years in terms of, you know, how do we determine a club's eligibility to offer scholarship in their club? I mean, there's when we looked at this year's numbers through the state, we have about 63% of the clubs that are actually contributing, and about 37% do not contribute anything. So I think it's been a discussion topic in the past, and we just want to get some feedback. And you know, I don't know if we want to take action today, but some kind of do we feel that we want to get, you know, in order for you to offer a scholarship, do we mandate that there's some kind of contribution by the club? I would love to just hear some feedback from the group.
Yeah, that's one of the ones we're really concerned about, because it's been like that for many years. And I always think of the 4-way test. And whatever we decide to do, we'll give the clubs at least a year to prepare for whatever comes down, so that they have time to make budget changes or however they want to meet the goals of their membership giving.
And I think the additional point was just given, you know, the uncertainty of the economy, you know, thank God for the report that we kind of bounced back. But, you we don't know what's going to happen with the economy. We'd love to get the clubs more involved with this and not just be able to pass out scholarships. So again, any sentiments either way?
I think, this is Sharon, I think it's only fair that everybody contribute in some way to HRYF to get a scholarship. It's hard to understand how a club receiving a $5,000 scholarship for a student and doesn't contribute anything.
Right.
You know, so I mean, I think that this topic has been talked about a lot, and I think we talked about at least letting the clubs know what our thoughts are, and
Right.
that we are, it's come to the point where I think the decision is going to be made that if a club doesn't contribute anything, and maybe that's the other thing is what is the anything, you know, that they will not be eligible for a scholarship.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, we've got to give the clubs the opportunity to respond to the why no contributions are made from the club itself or the members or what have you, and get an understanding, you know, before we actually, you know, lay down the gauntlet.
Yeah, well,
I know, that's my thought anyway.
no, that's good, and that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you know, the clubs pay their annual dues of $200. What does that $200 get them? You know, that's what we have to determine. Do they, if they give the $200, are they eligible for a $5,000 scholarship, but not the $10,000 scholarship? And in this slide, this HRY presentation we sent out, it shows the shortfalls because the numbers contributions are so low. So people have a visual of how much money we're losing every year because clubs are not, you know, members are not providing their required funds. And $40 per capita is, you know, is not that, I don't think it's unreasonable. So but those are good thoughts, and that's what we need to determine how we want to word this and what the criteria is, whether they get a scholarship, qualify for scholarships or not, especially if they pay the $200 dues per year.
Yeah, what does the $200 go for? Maybe that's the problem. They think that because they're paying the dues, you know, that's their contribution, but that's
Right.
not included in our contribution. What
Right.
does the $200 pay for?
Yeah, and when we give the presentation, we make that clear.
What is it? I don't know. I'm sorry.
No,
Is it for
what I'm
administration?
saying, yeah, what I'm saying is why it is important that the membership gives contributions, because the $200 per club does not come anywhere near covering the costs of scholarships. So that's why it's important for members to give. And when they see the amount that the members give, and then the shortfalls we have every year.
This is Wynn. I have a question for you. Is HRYF a membership-based foundation under the IRS?
You're breaking up. Wouldn't say that again, please?
Is HRYF a membership-based foundation under the IRS rules? What do the bylaws say as to what membership dues is for?
Yeah. Can anybody understand that? I can't get. Wynn keeps breaking up. I know IRS.
Jeff, I think what Wynn is trying to get to is, you know, the District 5000 Foundation
Yes.
is a membership-based foundation.
Uh-huh.
The clubs in the district, they have to be, they have to have a club resolution that says we would like to join your foundation.
Right.
But that, which is not the same as HRYF. I think all the clubs within the district are automatically members of HRYF. Is that correct?
So can you hear me now?
If they pay the $200 fee, yes.
Right. So if you pay your dues, you're a member of HRYF, the Hawaii Rotary Foundation. What do the bylaws say as far as responsibilities and the opportunities within the foundation?
Yeah, I'm sorry, when I just can't make it out what you're trying to say.
You can't hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but you're broken up. It's very hard to understand what you're actually saying.
Oh, okay. I'm on a headset, so I don't know how to fix that.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk offline.
Okay, that'll work.
All right.
I think one of the things that the clubs don't understand is that HRYF is a separate entity, and this has to be stressed. But one thing that I feel scares clubs away is $5,000. I know that's what each club gets, but I'm thinking of clubs of 15 members or something like that. They, giving $5,000 out of their budget is a whole lot. Now, true, they get $5,000 back, but maybe there can be some sort of a lower requirement for clubs of small size. So that, because $5,000 is a hump, and so they give it away, and yes, they get it back in the form of a scholarship, but I think it's daunting for small clubs. I'm not a member of a small club, and I will stress that.
Actually, clubs don't pay $5,000. Their dues are $200 for the membership individually.
Yeah, but aren't they supposed to try and raise some money toward the $5,000 that they get?
Not really. It's just that's
No.
why we're trying to get members to give per capita, $40 per member.
Oh, well, we shouldn't advertise that because then everyone, they'll lower their contribution. But okay, fine.
Jeff, this is Albert. I have a question. Yeah, this is Albert Medionis. I have a quick question. Do we send out to the club presidents on a regular, say a monthly basis, how much the club has contributed? Most of these club presidents are overwhelmed with paperwork and they probably don't know where they are in terms of HRYF, as we did yesterday when Win and I found out that I was the only one that had contributed for the club. But yesterday we were able to generate a lot of extra money just because suddenly members became aware of the need to contribute to HRYF. Mm-hmm. So my question is there a monthly, summary sent out to club presidents so they get reminded that HRYF is also one of the things they should address? Does that go out on a monthly basis to this club president so they know about HRYF and the need to support HRYF?
I believe Faith sends out a report roughly around every quarter. So
we send it to the board, but we don't send it to the presidents. A 6-month report and a yearly report, but we can do a monthly if that will help.
So out of sight, out of mind, right? So if the club presidents, because of all this paperwork that they have to contend with, if it's not brought to their attention, it's not something they would try to address. So I don't know if it's too much to ask, but I think to help focus interest or focus the need to address this issue, maybe a monthly report to the presidents might help. It also shows them comparatively how they're doing against other clubs. And, these club presidents have pride and don't want to look bad. Because that's how I felt yesterday when I saw this report for the first time. Oh my God, I was the only one that contributed. But yet, Win and I were able to drum up support yesterday just because we brought it up to the club's attention. So maybe if it were done on a more regular basis, it might be something that the club president could talk about with the club.
Okay, we'll take that for action. We'll do a monthly report and we'll send it out to all the clubs. Or maybe what we can do is send out to the area coordinators and they can disseminate it to the clubs.
Thank you.
That way the area coordinators have an idea of what their clubs are doing.
Also, Yeah,
Yeah.
also, there's a dues and information rep that each club is supposed to have. So in the past, only about the half of the clubs have said that there is one. That person should be the one we send stuff to. The presidents get all kinds of stuff. But if we had a person to do it's a dues and information rep that is appointed along with the scholarship rep. So there should be somebody in the club to generate information and generate contributing to the HRYF. We're doing an article about how to do Give Aloha, how to do the online giving. We're recently doing PayPal. And then there's the contributions of the per capita. So all these ways campaigns need to be sent out to the clubs for information also.
So who are the area representatives? I don't believe our club has seen an area representative. I know I haven't.
Yeah, they're the ones responsible for the area interviews from the individual clubs in their area.
So there's a youth and information coordinator for each club that's supposed to be sent to us.
That's right. Yeah, I misspoke. It's area coordinator.
May I say something?
Hi. Sarah,
Yeah.
is it pause? Yeah. Pause. Here, it's like we're in this.
May I say something?
Sure.
Okay. I put a question in on the chat, but I don't think it's been recognized. But as an incoming president, I'm from Honolulu Bay on Kauai. I feel like I'm kind of stepping into the middle of the stream in this meeting because I don't think we have very much context about HRYF at all. And I'm wondering if there's training that's planned or that I missed something, which is possible because I do miss things from time to time. But I think that this seems to be a very important part of Rotary and something that we've contributed to yearly, but it seems to be very much in the background of our club. And I think our youth chairman would be very interested. I know she's on this call, on this Zoom. And I'm wondering if there isn't some context that we could gain by having some training.
You know, seeing as we're on Zoom now, I'd be more than happy to give you the presentations. And I open that invitation to all the clubs as well as Laura and Cunningham, Mr. Cunningham on the Big Island. But I'd be more than happy to do that.
What I'm thinking of, Jeff, is if we maybe could get all the presidents who would be interested in one time, you wouldn't have to repeat it so much.
Sure.
Just a thought.
No, that's a good thought, and we can set that up. You know, that's why I like Zoom. It makes it easier to do that.
Maybe Naomi could help with that.
Sure.
You know, it seems that the presidents are a little bit overwhelmed with everything. And so why couldn't the person from each club who is the HRYF honcho for that club go to that meeting instead, so that there's one less thing for the president to stop pulling their hair out about.
I've already done that. You can see that.
I noticed. That's why I said that.
So I'm over the hump, but that's exactly what I had in mind. So that the chair could be.
You know, for whatever works for you people, just let me know. I'd be more than happy to meet your requirements. And if that's with all the HRYF reps on a Zoom meeting, that's perfect.
Jeff, can I make a suggestion? Faith, can you send out the list of all these representatives? Because like Wynn said, he doesn't know who is their representative for their club. You know, I think that maybe they don't even know that they're the representatives. Can you send out that list for every club?
Yeah, we could. Every year, as of July 31st, they're supposed to send us the list of who who is the dues and information rep, the scholarship rep, etc. So we can make that list available, except that the dues and information rep, we don't track as well as the scholarship rep, because we, normally get maybe half of the clubs to tell us who the dues and the dues person is. And the scholarship rep goes on a list with the application, so that we really need. So maybe we need to track the dues and information rep from each club.
But why do you need two? Why for our club, Richard Ito is both.
Oh, some clubs, the dues and information person is a different person. Sometimes they do the same person, who is the scholarship rep. But the scholarship rep is does a lot when it comes to the scholarship and the interviews and gathering all the applications. So in a smaller club, a lot of them do one person is both. But some clubs do.
But I think, Faith, I think that if we want to be proactive as an organization, we don't entirely rely on the clubs, especially in light of the fact that 30% of the clubs don't really participate and support. And those are the ones that don't have a representative within the club, don't have really a connection to HRYF. So as an organization, if we have an area representative that reaches out to them and works with those clubs that aren't participating, then I think that comes back to benefit in terms of growing the participation. I don't think we can rely on the club representative, quote, especially for clubs that don't have one. I don't think we can ever expect things to change if we don't reach out to them in that fashion.
Right. I can understand you real good now, Wynn. I don't know what you did with your speak, but I can understand what you're saying now.
Jeff and Faith, if you could go over the roles of those positions, I think that might help people understand why it's good to have two different people to do the different tasks.
Yeah, when we send out the information, we have a job description for each person, each job. But we do send copies to all the area reps whenever possible, and we have to. I always send information. If I'm sending something to the scholarship reps, I'm sending it also to the area rep. Or if I'm sending something to the club, we also include the area rep.
Jeff, I think maybe if you could put together something like a webinar like they had all our PEs went through for this year's PETS, and put something like that up on the HRYF website, maybe that might help too. So the new incoming president, if they didn't get any exposure, at least if there's something on the website, a video, not just reading all these words. I think that might help as far as getting the word out. This is the same discussion we have every year, because we have this thing set up already, and Faith is very good about getting out the information, but it just seems that it doesn't get beyond the people that we know. So if we could do something like that, because the incoming president all had to go do the online training through the Rotary International website. So maybe we could do something like that and keep the website updated. That might help as well.
Good suggestion. Thank you. Okay, Wynn, you want to try asking me the question you were asking me before?
Let's talk offline.
Okay. Okay, so go ahead, Gerald, you can continue.
Okay, so it sounds like we want to have some kind of a minimum contribution for point number one, right, whether it's a per capita or total club.
Right.
Okay. Number two is just clarifying, I guess, what the criteria of awarding the scholarship is. Just have some consistency among the clubs. Is it based off of, obviously it's a combination of things, but the importance of GPA, test scores, community service, they're just having the scoring sheets reflect the important or the areas that we're trying to emphasize on this scholarship. So I know some clubs talk about, it's community service. Some clubs talk about the person coming back to Hawaii and giving back. But it seems to be a need for clarifying what the objective of the scholarship is.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I've been a club rep for maybe 12 or 13 years now, and ever since I joined, when I'm in Albert's group, we've always had a scoring sheet. And my understanding was this is the HRYF mandated scoring sheet, and to reflect that, it's evolved over time. So I always thought that every club had the same scoring sheet from HRYF.
They should, because we send it out every year. One thing to keep in mind, I believe colleges are doing away with the GPA, so I'm not sure, do we want to keep it on there or?
Well, it's all of the ones it's all of the ones that you have listed for number 2, plus section for the interview. What kind of scores you get for the interview?
Right.
So there is definitely a scoring sheet. I'm surprised that all of the clubs don't have it.
They should have. We send it out every year, so they should have it.
Maybe it's because all of the clubs don't have a set HRYF representative.
That could be.
May I say something? Every year we tear our hair out again about the scoring that is suggested, and there's that's something extra, and the something extra is like 5% or something like that. Well, we've had students who their parents are disabled, but running a store, and they have to help with the store every day after school, and yet they still have accomplished great things, and they only get 5% for that. And so I say we just ignore the thing, just make it so that the whole thing adds up to 100, and you all can change your values around. You club members who are helping with the interviews, you just do whatever you wish, just so it adds up to 100.
Yeah, and the other thing too is the financial part. I mean, you may have somebody making 150K a year, but they have 6 kids, 2 are going through college, or the father is contracted cancer, so all the money that they make is going to medical bills and everything else. So, that's when we have to use our common sense.
Yeah, well, and there are so many other circumstances nowadays, sure. And yet we still give, 5% to dress right. At the interview. I mean, that's somebody has probably scraped together and gone to Savers to get something that's decent so they can go to an interview. Right. 5% for dress is a little outmoded, I think. Mm-hmm. Because what is considered proper for a job interview these days?
Yeah.
I think my take on the dress is it's an indication of the applicant's common sense. I mean, we've had people come in with slippers. I mean,
yeah, oh sure.
I mean, but a top student. Remember now, Mr. Sullivan, when he established this, he said, "Give me your brightest and best." Mm-hmm. So I don't consider a student who comes in with a t-shirt and slippers the brightest and best. Right. That's just indication.
Well, of course, I'll argue that. What happens if that child has not gotten any help from anybody about what you wear to an interview? Now, some of them come in with a shirt and tie and jacket and the whole number, and they look like they're going to Wall Street. But, others just don't know and haven't been told. And so maybe this is where the high school counselors come in, how to dress for an interview.
Well, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Hi, this is Tom Riley from Ala Moana. I've been interviewing for about 10 years, and I became this chair last year. But what we at Ala Moana, at least last few years, we decided not to pay attention to the financial need of the students. Everybody that applies have a financial need. That's why they're applying. So we don't try to determine who needs more than the other. That's not going to be a criteria. And I think that's something that HRYF might want to adopt.
Right.
Right.
One
It's
other,
not our
one other
business
thing
to
about
have
that,
to decide.
you know, when you look on the FAFSA to see what the parent's income is, and they say it's already been filed with the IRS. Well, you know, but we don't know.
Right.
May I say something? You know, I've been doing this for 25 years. And from previous guidance all the way back from Clarence McIntosh and now my Billy Baines Jordan. I was made to understand that we were looking for the best and the brightest. So need for in a certain need was going to be need blind. I mean, this scholarship, this decisions were going to be need blind. Of course, we do have a provision for need, and that's about 10 points on a 100-point scale. But this was going to be an attempt to find the best and the brightest, need blind. And when you talk about issues like when they come in slippers or in suits, it really is you really have to be very discerning to see. And what you're looking for is what steps has he made to show the importance of this meeting. It's not that he necessarily has to come in a suit, but you really expect as a minimum that they would put on slippers. So you just have to, over the years, be a little more discerning. But at the end of the day, I still have to circle back to what the original mandate was, which was the best and the brightest, and it was going to be need blind. Now, if that's changed, will someone please tell me, because Richard and I have been always proceeding under that assumption that we were trying to the best and the brightest, and need was only 10 points, and we should be as best as possible, need blind.
Good points.
Albert, thank you. That was really good. One of the things I want to just bring up in terms of the brightest, a lot of schools, colleges have announced they're not going to take, you don't need to take test scores anymore. So we're going to have to adjust that scoring sheet because if there's no tests, some people will have test scores, some will not. Yeah. But thank you for your input on the scholarship, Albert.
This year, there was also a change in how you score the grade point average, and that created some problems for us in Kapa'a because we had private school students whose schools' grade point averages were lower than those coming from the public schools.
Right.
Because the public school kids get extra points for AP classes and for some of the college link classes that they take. So at the Kapa'a High School, virtually every kid we saw had over a 4.0 average, but the kids from Island School and Kamehameha, their averages were under 4.0, and they may have had more rigorous classes.
Right.
So this is another complication. I appreciate the need to do that this year, but it was scaled to a little too heavily for the kids that had the higher numbers.
If I might say something, I think that every island has different situations on it that have to be taken into consideration. I think I've heard lots of good arguments about wearing slippers. Well, slippers were popular and were being worn to the White House. So I'm not buying the argument that kids can't wear slippers to an interview. I also think that when we look at least people from Big Island who've won the $10,000 scholarships, most of them have come from really difficult situations, family life, and that needs to be reflected. They've accomplished something more than the students who went easily to private schools and had family backing, financially. I think that we need to have individual clubs be able to make decisions about who needs the money and who is going to benefit most from this money. I think benefit most from it is an important part of this.
That's why I want a little paragraph about each of these $10,000 winners, just to find out who they are.
Jeff, do you have any kind of a committee to help you with the scoring process to work out some of the kinks in this situation?
No, that's why that's why we're bringing these things up now to see if we can get a committee together. And that's why I want to make everybody aware of what we were thinking and some of the feedback we received from our HRYF folks.
Because also in the scoring of the scoring of the college board test, the SAT, there was not a comparable scoring available for the ACT. So
Right.
I met with the high school guidance counselors and we came up with a scoring system because the ACT is more commonly used in the Southwest and South on the mainland, whereas the SAT is used more in the East Coast, West Coast, Midwest.
Interesting.
And there is a concordance table that's available. It's been available for a long time. If you need one, let me know because I can get you the concordance table.
Yeah, no, we did have it, but it was it should have been part of the program for the entire organization, so people had a way of looking at that.
I'm not for our club, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
Any more discussion on number 2?
I think we need a committee to sort it out.
Okay.
I would like to add one other thing on the financial needs side, that students who are, there are schools that are considered aid blind. In other words, if you get into Yale, Harvard, Princeton, and about 20 or 30 other of the top schools, they don't look at your, if they admit you, they help you come up with the financial resources to pay for your education.
Yes.
That kid who's going to go to one of those schools has a lesser need, even though their family circumstances may be more difficult. So it's a pretty complicated equation, you know, particularly since we're sending the check directly to the school as to who is benefiting the most from the scholarship. I mean, a kid going to one of the Hawaiian schools might have an actually higher need because they're not going to get compensated by the university to the same degree that a kid going to Brown or Tufts or something like that, you know, Berkeley. So it's a complicated equation, and I don't know how we can rationalize the whole process, but I think it needs to be looked at.
I agree.
Well, but isn't that out of our hands? We have the area choice, and we send the area choice into the HRYF board, and they're the ones who decide on the $10,000 winners, right?
Right. And one of the things we're changing for next year is we're actually going to interview the students instead of just going over paperwork. I think it'd be more beneficial for everybody that we actually interview the students that have been selected.
Good.
For the $10,000 scholarship.
Well, and so in other words, what you're saying is up to now, you just get the name, and that the East Honolulu area picked John Jones and Mary Smith, or no, John Jones as number 1 and Mary Smith as number 2, et cetera, et cetera. And then you all look at all the number 1s and say, we pick whoever.
Right. Yeah. Whatever the area coordinators send us are the applicants. We review their resume.
Right.
On that we make a decision. But we agree that it's very hard to do that without speaking to the students themselves, and it's not fair. I don't think, to just do it with people looking at paper instead of looking at the student themselves.
Yeah. Right. I want to be on that, on the committee that makes recommendations about changes in the criterion.
Okay.
Jeff, do you want to do a poll? Jeff, do you want to do a poll and see what the consensus is? Because for many years, we've said that the clubs can decide how to set the criteria. And so that's why we have the same. So do we want to see if people want to go to a standard criteria sheet, or do you want to just leave it to the clubs? Do you want to take a poll?
That's a good point. You know, will the clubs, like I can't remember who brought it up, but every island is different. So maybe every island should come up with a criteria. So at least the islands will be the same. each island will be the same criteria for their eligibility.
But, you know, but you know, when we're talking about islands, there's the areas of Maui that are a little bit more flush than other areas. Conversely, you know, Oahu, you know, East Central Oahu versus Nolani's area, you know, I mean, that there's a whole big difference in the average income level of every person living in that area.
If I suggest setting up a special committee with the charge of coming up with recommendations before our next quarterly or mid-year meeting, so that the board can review suggestions. Because otherwise, we're going to keep on talking about this forever. Committees is hard to do all in one meeting.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll get an email out and ask for people who want to participate in that committee. And maybe one rep from each island, maybe, or a couple of reps from each island.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, good idea.
Okay. Did we talk about number 3 yet, Carol?
I don't know if you wanted to save the rest of this for the committee when we get together. Yeah, I think that might be better. We're coming up on an hour now for the meeting.
Yeah,
so
okay.
It sounds like that
So
might be best. So
we'll table this until we get our committee.
Absolutely. Okay. I think that's all I had for.
Okay. I'm reading.
I think we have to really, we talk about it every year, but I think we really have to put the stake in the ground and decide and clean this up, because it seems like the questions come up every year. So
somebody just put up a polling question. Should the judging criteria be the same for all islands with a standard score sheet? Yes and no. So if you go ahead and vote, and we'll get the totals, and then we'll go from there. Did everybody get that in their chat?
Jeff, I have a comment on that. You know, it says it's up to the club to decide. Shouldn't it be to the area? Because when you get the area interviews, if every club has a different criteria, how is the area going to decide? So I think it should be, the smallest subdivision should be the area.
I would agree with that.
So the area coordinator will be the ones that come up with the criteria?
I think the representatives within the area, with the area person, chairman, can decide what their criteria is going to be.
Yeah. Also, I think we need to understand what the you know, if we're going to have one standard, we need to understand what that one standard is before we bother voting. Right now, I don't know what the one standard is.
Yeah, I agree completely that we need to take a 36,000-foot view first. What are we trying to do? Because all these years, all these 25 years, I was guided by the best and the brightest. Now, I know a couple of years ago, this drifted towards, oh no, we should look at need, and what about this poor kid, those parents, whose mothers working 2 jobs? And also towards doing vocational. Remember at one time we had looked at having vocational scholars? But let's first decide whether it's really the best and the brightest, which to my mind is the easiest to do, because cream will always rise to the top. Now when we go into stuff like appearance and need and stuff, well, now we're in uncharted territory, and that makes it more complicated. Second thing I wanted to say is I agree with Richard that from an area standpoint, the criteria has to be the same, because if one club is judging based on one set of criteria and another is judging on a different set, how are we going to make heads or tails of it when it comes up to the area level? The criteria for all the clubs in my area are all the same. So we try and standardize it as best as possible.
Right.
I agree.
So I guess we need to decide first, is the mandate really best and the brightest? Or has that changed over the years into something else? Then we can make we can come up with different standards? Or has it still been and always has been the best and the brightest? So I think we need to know whether that's still the mandate or whether it's changed.
Right. I would think that should be the criteria. Best and the brightest.
I was trying to understand that Ali was looking for, unless Mac and Billy Baines have told me differently, I was always making to understand that when he put this money aside, he was really looking for the best and the brightest who would do good for Hawaii and possibly come back. I never thought about, I never heard about it being for the needy or especially for vocational students. I was always under the impression that we were looking for the best and brightest.
Our club has designated additional money for students who have need, and we don't call it a scholarship now, we call it a continuing education grant. And this is for kids going to the community college. And if they meet the criteria for the application, we go through an interview, and then we award, depending, we have a budget for the year of an additional $10,000 that we put toward scholarships other than the HRYF and toward what we now call a continuing education grant. So the kids who apply for the HRYF, the top kid gets the HRYF scholarship, and then we select a number of other students who get between, they get $1,000 or $500. We set a criteria and we award another 5, 6, 7 scholarships out of that group. And then we have a separate set of criteria for doing continuing education grants for kids pursuing other kinds of education, whether it's community college or a certified work training program and so on.
Let you all know too, the current college counselor realm, we're talking about not just four-year colleges anymore. We're talking about career school, career education, because four-year colleges aren't necessarily the best choice for everyone to go to nowadays. Things have evolved since the 50s and 60s, so we may need to change some of our definitions. But definitely something for the community to think about, in my opinion.
Any other discussion? We'll come up with something on setting up a committee and deciding on what we want to do and how we want to do it. So it's equitable for all the clubs and all the students.
Do we have a document that kind of in the very beginning that was created to establish the scholarship? I mean, we should go back and look at whatever the historical mandate was or charter was for this.
Right. Yeah, we can go back and research that.
Yeah, we should. I like the ideas that are popping up. Albert, your point about the area is good, so that you have some consistency in the area. And then Jeff, we have to figure out if it's the area. And then when they come up to the district,
right?
There's going to be somewhat of a mismatch then, because the areas are going to be judging to what the areas want to, and then when we come up to the district, then it.
Right.
It's got to somehow match up to ours. But good discussion, good lively discussion. So we got a lot of work to do.
yeah. And I think our suggestion should be a standard criteria for all the clubs, so there won't be any disparity. I think it'll be a lot more fair for everyone and less confusing. So we'll get a committee together and we'll see what we can come up with, and then. Once we come up with our ideas, we'll go ahead and send it out to everybody, and we can comment on it, or maybe have a Zoom meeting or whatever. It works for everybody. Okay, so.
Anything else on the agenda for today?
Yes, we're back on the agenda now. Are there any other comments or questions or concerns? If not, then I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate your
Thank you, everybody.
participation and good input. We'll go ahead and see what we can do to make this better process. So thank you very much, all of you, for your support and your participation and your hard work. So take care.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
All the
Thank you.
best.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hey, when I'll give you a call if I have your number.